this presentation on behalf of Katie Stinnett, who usually does this. She is the program director for academic integrity. So she has the expertise. I have learned a little bit from her. So if you have questions that I can't answer, she will be able to answer them for you. So bear with me as we are learning through this together. I tend to be a pretty interactive presenter, so I will ask questions and want you to respond. And if you don't respond, I will call you out. I have no problem making people feel a little uncomfortable, okay? So bear with me, all right? All right, so let's talk about what is academic integrity here at MSU. So let's break these down. So give me an example. What is cheating? This should be easy. What is cheating? An example of cheating. Wow, we're really quiet today. Okay. Blue shirt and the hat in the back. What's cheating? Give me an example.
Doing something that the directions explicitly say to not do.
Okay, can you get more specific?
So like if the test says don't use an outside resource and you use an outside resource, then that's cheating.
That's cheating. Awesome. Great. Do we have another example? What is cheating? Yeah, looking at somebody else's paper, right? Cheating is pretty, we know what cheating is for the most part. How about plagiarism? What is plagiarism?
Do the paper, like do the research paper without the citation.
Yeah, doing a research paper without the citations or without correctly citing things. Yeah, plagiarism. Is there another example of what plagiarism might be?
It's copying someone else's work, like word for word, man.
Yeah, copying somebody else's work word for word. It can even look like paraphrasing theirs if not done in a different enough way or not citing things correctly. Plagiarism. How about that? Information falsification or fabrication. What does that mean?
Making stuff up.
Making stuff up. Okay, do you have an example of what that could look like?
Oh yeah, we got warned in one class not to say you were in a certain program. Like if you were in an MBA program, for instance, you weren't really in it yet, but you said you were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yep.
Say
So
that.
saying things that aren't true. Or what about if you're reading through an article and you find a statistic you really like, but then you lose your place and you're like, I think it was this, and you make up the statistic? That's fabrication. How about theft of intellectual property? What does that mean?
It's like stealing somebody's idea.
Yeah, stealing somebody else's idea, passing it as your own. Kind of borders on plagiarism a little bit too, if it's like a written idea. Absolutely, absolutely, great. And then how about facilitation of academic dishonesty? What does that look like?
Helping somebody cheat,
Helping somebody cheat. How would you help someone cheat?
like doing an assignment for them.
Yeah, doing an assignment for them, potentially even giving them old assignments or old tests. That can look like facilitation of academic dishonesty. Some of these things you may have done before, right? How many of us have probably, if we haven't cheated, have been tempted to cheat? I'd say everybody in this room, most likely. Hopefully you haven't cheated, or if you have cheated, or you have plagiarized, you have been caught, and you have learned from this mistake. We take this really seriously here at Missouri State. College takes it up a level. So maybe you didn't get caught in high school, maybe there weren't as many consequences. In college, the consequences you face for violating any of these things are pretty serious. And the reason for that is because part of your learning process means that you're learning to engage with new ideas and new concepts. You're trying to give credit where credit is due. And then moving into your professional realm, into your career, integrity in every area of what you do is vital and important, but really it starts off with this piece, the academic integrity side of things. So why does it matter? This is a question you can respond to. Why does academic integrity matter? I gave you a couple of points, but why else? Teal shirt, white cup.
It ensures that everyone knows the material and no one has like an advantage.
Yeah, it ensures that everybody learns the material. Hopefully that's why you're in school, right? To learn the material, to engage with the material, and know what you need to know. What else? Why does it matter? Yeah.
It's a way to promote accountability and responsibility.
Yeah, a way to promote accountability and responsibility. In what ways?
Making sure that you're holding yourself accountable to this, which will teach you to use it later on down the line when you have to adhere to certain rules.
Heck yes, I love that. So it's not just in college that this matters, or in grad school, or whatever else. It really matters through your life, teaching you that personal accountability. Because if you can be and have integrity in your academics, hopefully that's bleeding into your personal and your professional life as well. It really does come down to that integrity piece. So I know today we're talking about academic integrity, but when we're going through this, I really want you to think about what aspects you're learning about integrity. If you had to define integrity for someone who doesn't know what that means, what does that word mean?
What you do when nobody's looking.
What you do when nobody's looking. How many people have heard that response before with integrity? Yeah, what you do when nobody is looking. That's integrity. It means that you have strong morals and strong ethics, and you follow something that you live by. And that can be a variety of things, but it's all about doing the right thing, which leads into academics and into your personal life. What do you risk if you are not a person with integrity? What's at risk? That's kind of a broad question. But what could potentially be at risk for not doing the right thing? We'll break it down even more with academics.
You will get XF.
An XF. Yeah. Do you know what an XF means?
Just you cheating, and your professor probably find academic like center or something and give you XF.
Yeah. We'll go a little bit more in depth into XFs as well. What else might be at risk?
Your very soul.
Your very soul?
Yes.
Your very soul. Okay, sure. There can be some personal things at stake for not having integrity. But the other pieces that you're risking by potentially doing any of those actions against the academic integrity policy, you're looking at an XF, you're looking at failing the class. Did you know that your degree can be revoked up to 5 years past graduation as well? And it has been done before. So we're not just talking about a little slap on the wrist, right? We're talking about some real serious impacts to your education here and potentially to your future career as well. If you graduate and then your degree gets revoked, what does that look like for your job? Most of the jobs you're going to be going into require you to have a certain level of degree, and then you don't have that degree anymore because you chose not to have academic integrity. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the tricky situations that arise. I know sometimes we will choose to do cheating and plagiarism and falsification and some of those things because we don't know. I hope at this point that you understand the principles and the basics of academic integrity. If you ever have a question, it's always better to ask. Always better to ask beforehand than to try and do it and risk being wrong and risk the repercussions. So let's talk about collaboration versus cheating. What does that mean? Is it okay to collaborate with people in your class? Yes, I see heads nodding. When might it turn over into cheating? When might collaboration turn to cheating? Yeah.
When there's only input from one person.
Okay, when there's only input from one person on what?
On a group assignment, or even just an assignment you're working on together.
Sure. So can be problematic if there's only input from one person. Good. What else? Collaboration. When does it turn to cheating? How about those take-home tests that you're supposed to complete alone? If you're working with a friend, that doesn't become collaboration, that becomes cheating. How about if you're getting ready to study for a test in class and you're doing that with a friend? Is that cheating? Typically no, unless the professor has given you explicit instructions that you are not to work with somebody outside of class. All right, so you're following the directives of your instructor as well. So I put up the little analysis of fish versus fishing. We've all probably heard the saying that You give someone a fish, they eat for a day, right? But you teach them to fish, they eat for a lifetime. Same idea with collaboration and cheating, okay? It seems really easy to look off the paper next to you or to have somebody do your assignment as opposed to working with them, engaging with them, teaching them, and having them teach you. Your peers are your greatest allies, right? They know a lot of information. You have a lot of information. It's okay to collaborate and work together. What becomes problematic is when they are doing the work and you are not. So keep that in mind. How about the peer pressure to cheat or the peer pressure for plagiarism? How many people have felt that pressure before where your friend is telling you, no, it's fine, I've done it before, just throw in this citation or use my paper or use this? How many people have had that? No? A couple. Okay, cool. One thing that I am going to highlight is that it's your education. And though they may get in trouble for their part in helping you cheat or plagiarize, it's your education and you are also going to receive repercussions. So think about the consequences associated with it, but you're also thinking about, are you actually learning? Are you actually engaging with the material if someone else is doing the work for you? The answer is no. Hopefully you know this. So always keep that in mind. How about the time crunch? How many people have pushed off an assignment to the very last second? Every hand should be raised. We have all done it, right? Yes. Did you know that the vast majority of plagiarism happens between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m.? Why do we think that is?
Pressure.
The pressure? In what way?
Well, it's maybe they want to get it done and they want to have it over with and they just want to be out of their misery, so they just cheat.
They cheat, right? Or if it's due by your 8 a.m. class and you have not given yourself enough time to do it, granted, you think you can write a 5 or 6 page paper in that time span, but how many of us can actually sit down and write a 5 or 6 page paper in one setting and it's good enough to go? Maybe you can. That's pretty impressive, but I would doubt that many of you can, okay? So most of the time, plagiarism comes from lack of knowing what plagiarism is, and it comes from lack of time management. If you find yourself in a situation where either you've forgotten about assignments or you've pushed it off to the last second, because hello, it happens, welcome to adulthood, it is always better to take the 0. Always better to take the 0 on the assignment. See if your professor will give you an extension to be able to work on that paper. But taking a 0 is going to look a lot better on your transcript and in that class than cheating or plagiarizing and potentially taking an XF on your transcript. An XF on your transcript signifies worldwide that you failed a class because you cheated or you plagiarized. And that means a lot in today's world because it means that you were untruthful about something, you tried to pass work off as your own, that you are lacking some of that integrity. And when employers ask for transcripts or when they ask for those types of things and they see that XF, that could mean the difference between you getting the job and you not getting the job. So I promise you it is better to take a 0 because of poor time management than it is to take an XF on your transcript. Okay, so you have pushed yourself to the limit, you are facing a deadline, you are unprepared for this deadline for a paper. Ask yourself these what if questions, because how many of us, we have to make an A on a test? What do we risk if we don't get that A? Are we risking a scholarship? Are we risking our perfect academic record? Are we risking our GPA? And then balance those versus, is it worth the XF I could be getting? The answer is always no, okay? Even if you don't get that A. What if you don't pass the class, if you don't turn in this assignment, or if you don't get this assignment 100% correct? What do you risk by this? Will you have to retake the class? Will you have to stay an extra semester? Most of the times you can retake the class pretty quickly. Hopefully by the time you're getting ready to graduate, you're not faced with these same decisions. Hopefully that we have learned time management by that point, maybe not. But hopefully you have. So always think about the risks. And then the ultimate question is, what if I cheat or plagiarize? What are the risks there? We've talked about it a couple of times. You are risking an XF on your transcript. You are risking failing the class. You are risking getting your degree revoked in the future too if they don't catch you right away. Okay, so there is a lot at risk if you choose to cheat or plagiarize. One thing I will say over and over is I'm empowering you to make your own choices. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're adults, you get to decide that on your own. But you have to know the information and feel empowered to make those choices, or else they're not your own. Respondus. How many of us have used Respondus before? Yeah, okay. So Respondus is the test proctoring system that is utilized. Respondus can be a little finicky. There can be some things that are a little tricky. This goes along with academic integrity because ultimately it's looking to see if you're cheating, right? And so we want to create an environment that is conducive to show that I'm not cheating, I'm not plagiarizing, I'm doing everything the way that I need to. So when you are preparing for your Respondus test, you need to think about the location. Are you in a busy location? Is there good lighting? Can they see your face? Do you have a stable connection? And then you want to look at the surfaces around you, right? How many people do this in their bedroom and there's desks in the background and there's mess and there's all kinds of things? That can be distracting and that can look like you are trying to cheat because you have paper over here and here and here. The easiest thing to do is cover all of your surfaces. You can use a sheet. If you have an extra monitor, you can shove a pillowcase over it. Cover all of your surfaces so that it looks like a blank slate. That's the best tip for that. The logistics of Respondus. Don't leave your computer in the middle of the test, right? Don't look away from your computer too much. If you're constantly looking away, it looks like you're referencing something for the test. So if you tend to be somebody who gets easily distracted, has to look away, make sure that you're preparing for that mentally, that you really need to stay zoned in and focused. Don't exit the test until finished. This tends to be one that actually academic integrity sees a decent amount. People exiting the test to try and go Google something and then pop back and they think that it won't catch it. It does, all right? What if something happens? So we are in a great day and age of technology. Technology is great when it works and sometimes it doesn't. If you have done all of the planning, you've tested your connection, you've tested everything, you're starting your exam at the right time, you know what you're doing, you're prepared, and you lose your connection, the best thing to do is immediately email your professor. What you maybe don't know is on the back end of Respondus, we can tell if you have lost your connection or not, so if you're lying or not. So if you truly lost a connection, email your professor immediately. This has happened a time or two. If someone comes in the middle of your test and you're like, oh my God, they have to go away. It's your mom telling you it's time for dinner. It's your roommate coming in and dropping stuff off. This kind of stuff happens. The best way to deal with this is to literally talk out loud to the camera screen and explain what is happening. My roommate just walked in and is setting his backpack down. My mom just asked me for dinner and I told her that I am in the middle of a test. Because then whoever is reviewing the footage will be able to see why you looked off screen and there is an explanation for it, okay? We get it, life happens, some of these things happen, but you have to know what's going on. Campus resources. So hopefully you have a little bit of an understanding on the importance of academic integrity and what all the policy entails. If you are ever stuck, you're stumped, you have no idea, you feel iffy about whether you can do something or not. We all get put in those weird situations. Utilize your campus resources. The Center for Academic Success and Transitions has a bunch of different resources. If you're struggling and you don't know how to do research, if you don't know how to cite something correctly, if you don't know how to write a paper, if you don't know how to do an assignment, there are no excuses to cheat or plagiarize because we're laying out the resources available. You can request a success coach. A success coach will work on a plan with you. You can go to the Bear Claw. You can go to the Writing Center. All of these are wonderful resources. You can utilize your professor's office hours. That is maybe one of the greatest things you can do. The office hours are there for a reason. So if you have specific questions about a specific assignment or test, go to them first. College of Business specific tutoring, I know that that exists and that is present, so if you need that specifically. The Academic Integrity Office is also available to help answer questions. I'll pop their email at the end. And then if you are experiencing significant amount of stress, you're overwhelmed, there's things happening in your life that are impacting your academics, but then also just who you are as a person, there's a counseling center here on campus that is free and confidential to students. And you may not see the connection between counseling and academics, but I promise you it's there. If you are struggling with things personally, that's going to impact your academics because you're going to be focused on one area and not the other, and you're going to be tempted to do things that could be against that academic integrity policy. Okay, this was not the most fun and enjoyable talk, I get that, but if you choose now to cheat, to plagiarize, to violate any of those academic integrity policies, you now know better, right? So the pressure's on you to make the right choices, to do the right things. I can take questions. I may not be able to answer them and I might have to redirect you, but I am happy to take questions if needed. Clear as mud?
Would you get a warning before getting an XF, or would they just hammer it to you?
Not necessarily. So it kind of depends on, the professor is really the one that's working with the Academic Integrity Office to see what is necessary. And I will say most of the time it's taken into account, do they know what they did wrong, or was it purposeful? So intent matters. But if this is your second, third, fourth time with the office, you should know better about certain things. One of the big things that comes through a lot is not citing things correctly. So you maybe tried to cite something, but you didn't do it correctly. With all of the different MLA, APA, Chicago, there's a bunch of different ways to cite things. The Writing Center, the Bear Claw is going to be a great resource to double check those things. So not necessarily, you won't necessarily receive one or the other. It kind of depends on what the situation is and then kind of how you're working with the professor in that way. Yeah.
Is there like a level? So is there like, if you cheat on like a homework, is that the same as cheating on like an exam for an XF?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, it's going to kind of depend on the professor. And was this a homework assignment that was worth 5 points? Was this a homework assignment that was worth 100 points in the scheme of the class? So it's going to depend on some of those things. So there aren't, with academic integrity, there's some hard and fast policies, but when it comes to kind of the nitty gritty of what gets assigned when, there aren't a lot of like hard and fast things. I will say that typically tests are weighed more heavily than like homework projects and assignments, but that's not true for every class. It depends on the makeup of the class, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Even if you don't get like an XF, but you still got caught doing something, will it still go on your record?
So if the things that show up on your like academic record or academic transcript are going to be if you failed the class, so you can't just get an F in the class, the XF, or if your degree was revoked. So if you received you received a 0 on that assignment, that's not necessarily going to show up on your transcript, but it'll impact your grade in the class. Other questions?
So if somebody helps you cheat that isn't in the class, do they get an XF? Like how do they get an XF? Like, you know, like what would the punishment be if they're not in the class?
Yeah, so that is going to be more of a Katie specific question because she didn't talk with me about a case that she's worked on like that, but they would receive some kind of consequence because of their actions, so it would be both parties. I don't know what that would exactly look like. If they're helping you and they've taken the class before, there could be some kind of repercussion that way. So if you want to know specifically, that would be a Katie-specific question. But that's a good question. Other things? Yeah.
From the perspective of a student, is there any way to defend yourself if like something you did, like you didn't cite something right or something like that? Is there any way to kind of give a defense so that you weren't, or that you can make a claim that it was an accident or something?
Yeah, so as a student, you have rights. And so I would encourage you to take a look at the academic integrity policy to know your rights. Ultimately, the professor is the one who's supposed to be reaching out to the academic integrity office to kind of start the process moving forward. And then you would receive a letter from the academic integrity office with information about how to appeal the decision that the professor has given. If you don't receive that letter, you need to reach out to the academic integrity office, because that means that your rights aren't in play at the moment, and we want to make sure that you understand you have rights. The appeal goes not to the professor, it goes to the Academic Integrity Council, and so it's a group of people who look at everything and decide from there. So you do have a way to advocate for yourself in that sense, and then if the professor knows you and opens the door to have a conversation about, hey, why was this choice made? Can you explain to me? Then you might have some ability in that way as well. But if they don't give you that, you have the option of appeal. Good question. Other things? Clear as mud? Okay, anything else you were wanting from me?
No, I think that pretty well covered it.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Gabby.
Yeah.